Okay. Hello, so thought I'd start doing some videos with talking. So these are just making the little sort of guinomi fascetted things that came out as one of the few things that came out okay on Steve's kiln. And these are fairly rapid to make. I'm making them fairly loosely, and I use the rough clay after it's been through quite a few times, and it's getting a bit short and baggy and not terribly nice to use. So I quite like this aesthetic of the sort of for the shino, this sort of wobbly, wabi-sabi-ish, I suppose. Aesthetic. So I've got a little rip there. So if I do get a little rip, I generally just get one of the offcuts, rip a little patch, and just stick it on, and then that'll be okay. And then that becomes quite nice, that little opening. So these are part of the sort of, this sort of wibbly, shino-y aesthetic. And so I do these like this because my thought on these is the ones we see from very long time ago in museums and stuff that's very beautiful. I've got a few thoughts on those, and I might be wrong, but never mind. The ones we see now from a few hundred years ago, they're going to be the good examples of what was produced en masse in the most rapid way they could. A bit like the sort of little 1 penny or whatever they are coffee cups for the trains in India and stuff. It's just rapid production for the masses, sort of like the styrofoam cup of its day. And they're really beautiful examples have remained and been looked after, because you get the odd special one out. But they weren't going for super special each time. They were just going for, this is something to put your tea in and possibly even discard by the roadside afterwards. It doesn't matter if it chips, it doesn't matter if it breaks. The cheap, quick production, and it's that unfussy way of making that I believe these would have been similar to hakami and stuff like that. I think that's probably again something that would have been, it's en masse. It's the technology for the masses of the time, and we've retained some beautiful examples that are quite reasonably thought of as a bit special. But I don't think you'd get that we are sort of exalting and appreciating by trying to do it. I think you can only get the sort of the essence of what is nice about them by sort of producing them more like they may have been then, which to my mind is as quick as possible, not worrying too much about getting it wrong, patching it where you need to patch it or whatever, if that's quicker than just starting again, and just bang them out, let them go wobbly. Some of them will be amazing, some of them will be average, and some of them will be in the bin at the end, and just sort of accept that about process. So this is a random concoction of clay, which has had a few bits of sponge in, which is my fault. It's getting a bit tired now. It's been through the pub mill quite a lot of times without a rest. It's a little bit short, and I find the terrible quality clay that as it boils down to, as you've used it and pugged it and used it and pugged it, is actually quite good for this. And when I was in Japan, I did a little bit with a known potter over there called Hiroki Numaguchi. Really nice bloke, fortunately dead now. And they were very difficult to throw with his body and in the style that they throw. The clay was extraordinarily wet, and obviously thrown the opposite direction and with a totally different way to the way I was being taught was a little bit awkward. And I started having a little think about that, and I thought, well, if you look at the Chinese and things that would have influenced and populated Japan, they throw more like we do over here. They throw on one side, they throw with a fairly rapid wheel. So I came to the conclusion that possibly the Japanese aesthetics and the Japanese styles are because maybe their natural clays aren't so great. They're quite sandy and groggy, quite short, lack plasticity, and maybe they've had to develop ways of being able to make them by making it a very wet clay so that it has a plasticity or a fluidity, and then that lends that as a material with a different property lends itself to a different form of aesthetic appreciation. Obviously religion and stuff would come into that, but it may just be, you know, as I think I try to keep my work as, or I do keep my work as fairly process and material led happening. So when this clay gets pretty nasty for making pretty much anything else, it seems to get better for making these with the opening texture and the rips, and you know, this is nice. That's really opened up there in little cracks and stuff, and you know, I quite like that. So that's my thought on that. You know, again, I might be wrong. It's just my own thinking that's led me to that conclusion. Sure, there are scholars of this stuff that will be able to say I'm completely wrong and talking out my arse. But that's just what I reckon, which is why I'm doing this. And if it does end up that I'm completely wrong and talking out my arse, well, it still led me to making these that I quite like, so that's fine by me. Okay, so I'll just do a few more of these without any conversation. See, so there we've gone all the way through. So that'll just get a little patch in the as part of the one of the off cuts. We'll just patch that, and then it will be fine. You see, not really even bothering to centre. If it doesn't get centred straight away, as long as it's good enough to throw with, that'll do for me. just lifted up off the vat, so it should still make an okay wibbly wobbly one. Plus we like the wibbly wobbly ones with these, so just ignore it. Last one in the bucket. And we've just boshed out a few of those. Like I say, some of them will be awful, some of them will be okay, and there might be one or two quite nice ones, but it's a good way of using up the not very nice clay, rather than having to sour it and process it and reflocculate it and all of that and spend ages. Just sort of adapt an aesthetic that deals with stuff as it gets tired. Okay, so that's that. Bye.